you're going to build a business, know it.
Hey everybody, welcome to the 2%er Show, the real-time, real talk of the journey in business.
Bobbie Ezra here.
Jabin once again, just coming at you with the real-time, real talk. What we mean by that is whatever grind you have going on, that's where we're at as well. You know, our grind is business. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is really just our background, so you can get an idea where we're coming from and eventually where we're going, and how you can come along on this ride with us as well and grow in this community of 2%ers.
Yep.
If you didn't hear last time what we were saying about what a 2%er is, a 2%er is basically anybody at the top of their game, you know, whether it's art, music, film, business, you name it.
Anything.
Whatever it is that you enjoy doing, we want you to be the best at that. And
Exactly.
usually in industries, only the top 2% of the people make it big. So why not just create it into a mindset? And that's where 2%er, you know, comes in.
Exactly. And our 2%er is the journey to get to become the 2%er. Yes, do we want to, speak to people that are 2%ers already? Of course. But our community is about those who are willing to go to become a 2%er, that want to do that and are not afraid to let go of their weaknesses and tell us what their weaknesses are, just like we will tell you what our weaknesses are and what we are good at. And just have fun. Like, have fun with this journey, because it's such a ride. Business is such a ride, and it's lonely. I want to be honest with you.
Definitely.
Business is a lonely, lonely journey. Everyone sees at the end where everybody loves them, and you're always on. If you become really successful, everybody knows you on an Instagram, this, that, whatever. But guess what? On the way there, no one ever wants to talk about how lonely it can get, and we want to be there with you. And when you have that lonely time and you feel like no one cares about you because no one thinks you're gonna make it, right here, tune in. Message us, talk to us, because we feel you. We know what it's like. If you're having a great day, tell us why. Because someone out there wants to hear you having a great day, because maybe they're not having a great day. That's
right.
what 2%ers do.
That's right. So a little bit about your background, Bobbie.
So I was born in New York. I lived in New York for pretty much until I went to high school. The cool thing about New York is people, oh, you're in New York, so you must be like a New Yorker and be all this cool stuff. I never got out. I never was let out. I was in 17th Street, 8th Avenue, and it was, at that time, that neighborhood was not good. If you go there now, it's beautiful. It's like a real artsy neighborhood, all this stuff there.
Of course, all the property values went up over there.
Yeah, of course. I was there when the property was nothing. It was bad. It was really bad. Went to grammar school there, and nursery school, everything there. But the thing that kind of I see was shaping me was I was never allowed out. My parents worked 9 to 5, and I was basically raised by my grandparents. And I was not allowed out because it was a bad neighborhood. So when they decided to move to New Jersey and, get a bigger house and get a safer neighborhood, that was awesome. But this is what I realized, and that's when I started to think about business, when I started to get to high school, was that I saw at that point that, people had different kind of parents, where they actually had parents that were home during the day. Or if there was a day off from school, I saw, wait, why are your parents home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Mm-hmm. Guess what? Most of them had a business. Whether it's small or big, most of them had a business to do that. I never really saw my parents until 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And when I was traveling from New York to New Jersey, when they still worked in New York and we lived in New Jersey, I would go to school, get home at 7 o'clock at night, being in grammar school. So I did the 9 to 5 grind, traveling from New Jersey to New York all the way up until high school. So I never really played.
As a kid, you were already grinding the 9 to 5.
I personally was doing the drive grind like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was in school,
right.
But I knew what it was like to only have Saturday. Saturday was the day I could play outside. Mm-hmm. Sunday, I was the day where my parents were like, hey, we got to go to work and school tomorrow, so you got to get ready because we got to wake up at 5 a.m. again. That was horrible. Like, I realized that I needed time. Like, I realized this can't be a life. And I saw they wanted to go to New York because there was more money there.
Sure.
But we were never rich. We were just getting by like everybody else, but I had less time to play or be anything. And I knew that I needed something to give me more time. And every people that I saw and I read about, it was like, oh, they own the business. And the business were able, that's the way they got to freedom, where they at least had some more time to do that.
Right.
And that's how I started when I started to think about business, was because of that reason. What about you, Jay?
Yeah. So, similar background. I mean, I was originally born in Queens, New York. Shout out to the Mets. That's why I'm a big Mets fan.
Oh God.
Like, I still remember the day that I was throwing my first baseball as a kid out in Flushing Meadow Park, and I could see the old stadium, Shea Stadium, in the distance from that park. Yeah, just grew up there until about 7 years old, and then my father, packed up everything, moved down to Jersey, where we pretty much grew up in, and came from an average type of middle class background, lower class, middle class background, and I say that because there were stages, like my parents were originally immigrants. So I was originally, born here, first generation. They were immigrants from Ecuador. And what my father always instilled in me was just, go to school. You got to go to school. That was his thing, because he became a civil engineer. In the beginning, when he was raising us and, having a young family, he wasn't making the most because, to tell you the truth, you don't make the most when you come out of college, even back then.
No.
You don't go
now
right
too.
to the top, They start you off at the bottom of any organization, whether you have a degree or not. So, it wasn't, we weren't given everything, and I think as a kid, because we weren't given everything, I always wanted to like play around with different things. For one, I used to mess around with radios and record and things like that just for fun. One time MC, I remember splicing together songs from the radio, because back then you could actually record it from the radio, and put it on your cassette tape and replay it without the commercials,
I used to do that.
Right? So, and then one of the things I did at one point was just started recording myself MCing as if I was the MC bringing in the song, and created mixtapes like that for fun.
Dork.
Other things I used to do, yeah. Other things I used to do. I mean, I used to have like, what's it called? Baseball cards and, different, type of sports cards that I would, collect, and then eventually started selling, to the neighborhood kids. Same thing with like lemonade. I think every summer it was like always another business project I was trying to do out of the back of my parents' house, and just try to recruit kids to help me, move the product along, move the lemonade along.
A little pusher.
They're all playing outside, sports. And then once I was done with that, I would join them too and play some sports, so somewhat of a average middle class type of background. My father was the one that made that commute up to New York, and that's no matter what, who you are, or where you're doing, like you're doing like an hour and a half commute to go to work. That was ridiculous. I didn't want to have that life, because I saw him leave very early if I was awake at the time, and then come back somewhere around 6, 7 o'clock at night, so we saw very little of him during the week. And sure, he was around in the weekends and things like that. I knew, being raised by my mother, that, we had limited options. There were a lot of things I would have liked to have done as a kid that weren't afforded to me because of the limited income. So I think that, with many of the other things, being creative in different areas and seeing, how to sell something, how to flip something with lemonade stand or baseball cards, like it was just the thrill of it as a kid. And I just kept nourishing it over and over and over again.
Your mom was a stay-at-home mom, right?
Yeah, she was stay-at-home. She really just raised the 3 boys. It's 3 of us, 3 boys, and I'm the oldest. So, they basically are the traditional immigrant type of family. That comes over at they came over at a young age, so they did have some of the American culture instilled in them. But it was basically average lower middle class type of upbringing.
Yeah, you weren't poor.
No, I wasn't. Like, we always had enough to eat. You know what I mean? We always had clothes on our backs, but we didn't have like the best things. I remember in school I had knockoff shoes while everyone else had great, Nike pairs and things like that.
Yeah, but you had shoes.
I had shoes, yeah. We weren't coming from dirt. Honestly, I do like that upbringing. I look back on it and I realized that it instilled a lot of grit in me, a lot of what's it called?
Gumshoe.
Gumshoe. No, it instilled a lot of discipline, a lot of motivation, to want more. Like I'm one of those type of people that I don't settle for just where I'm at. If I hit one peak, I want to go to the next peak of a mountain and the next and the next. Because I don't want to settle, like when it comes to just that, when it comes to, earning income, when it comes to, growing in business, when it comes to being a better dad, being a good husband, like I don't like to just be stagnant, you know?
I think growing up in the, middle class, whatever, lower middle class you want to call it, to me, I think is a detriment. I really do. As I look back and I look now, even to this day, I think it's a detriment. And what I mean is, like, most people, they love the stories of, you came from poor, nothing to something, you had no shoes on your feet.
Right.
Everybody you look at, oh, I used to deal drugs or something, any different stories, always from rags to riches.
That's when they come from like dirt.
Dirt.
Yeah.
But guess what? We were blessed not to become from rags. Right. I didn't have rags. Like I had, I went to a school. I had they lived in an apartment a little bit. Then they moved up to a house and they did that. And what I think, and I look back at, I think that's one of the most dangerous places to be, because if you're reading a story about someone who came from rags to riches, they have nowhere else to go. They have nothing to lose. They're a dangerous animal let loose onto the world, and that's why they usually make it in life. Jay-Z, you came from nothing, makes it to this, or wherever you want to look at. We didn't really come from that, and I think that could either, and maybe you didn't either, and that could be a detriment to you because you may be comfortable and you grew up with having something.
Right.
That hunger for having more better be what you're gravitating towards.
Sure.
That's what gravitates, Jay and me. That's what we wanted to do and we want to continue to do, because we realize that middle class is not dirt poor, is not rags, but is dangerous because you're just stuck. You're right there, and it's just like a level,
right,
like a plateau.
Right.
But in the end, that plateau will go down. Like, we believe that. Like, our monetary system is not designed for that plateau, that middle class. And because I wanted to have more time, and I realized that, hey, middle class is awesome. I give thanks to that, but there's so much more. Now I see how business was my outlet and is my outlet of way of achieving that.